Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video. It's your boy, the Hungry Hornet, and today's video we're discussing how much power on a motorcycle. What has inspired this particular video is quite simple. I've recently been pottering about on my 125, but I've also obviously own a fully massive 750cc engine. So the question is, as a commuter, how much power do you need? How much power does one really need on a motorcycle? And it's pretty simple really. It's obviously totally dependent on the rider. Bigger doesn't always mean better when it comes to motorcycles, I don't think. I like a small bike. I like a Grom, I like a 125, I like all sorts of stuff like that. But I also like a nice big beefy bike. I like a litre bike, I like a 750, I like a 650, I like a 600, I like a 500. But when it comes to motorcycles, there's so much choice, isn't there, out there with what sort of bike do you need as a commuter? Now, as a commuter, I'd say you could do just fine on a little 125. Routinely, the reason people get a CVT is to commute, so obviously that doesn't stop being valid when you get a 125. It's not like, oh my god, all of a sudden I can't use this 125 to commute because I got a full license. That's not the case, mate. You know, you can still commute on a 125. They're usually very generous with the MPG. They're usually very easy to maneuver, they're nimble, and they also make a lot of sense for the commuter because they're cheaper to insure. Now, if you have a big old monster bike like a 1000cc or like a, you know, imagine you had to do Gatti Panigale to commute on, that would be an absolutely silly decision. Unless you're commuting to the McLaren paddock and you work for a Formula 1 team, then yes, go for it. I personally don't think you need reams of power for a motorcycle. I actually think the less power you have, sometimes the better for commuting, and I'll explain why I think that. Now, with more power comes more responsibility, as Ben from Spider-Man would say. Uncle Ben. Rest in peace, Uncle Ben. But as Uncle Ben said, with more power, or with great power, comes great responsibility. Yeah, okay, that's the nerdiest thing I've ever said on this channel. The same can be said about with little power comes little responsibility. Is that true? No, it's not. So with any sort of motorcycle comes a lot of responsibility. Get out of your head first and foremost. You're responsible for yourself, your health, your well-being, and the fact that you can get, you know, back home in time to see your loved ones. That's exactly what you should be focusing on a motorcycle. What's the safest motorcycle? The safest motorcycle is the one that feels safest to you. Now this is what this video is all about. You know, do you need, you know, 1000cc's to get by? No, you don't. But if you feel comfortable on 1000cc's, rock on, my friend, go for it, buddy, because it's, you know, what feels safe for you. Some people don't feel safe on 125s. They feel a bit exposed, they feel a bit wobbly, they feel a bit scared, you know, they feel like, oh, I need this extra power. You don't, mate. But if that's what you feel like, that's what you feel like. What sort of bike is best for commuting? Should we wave at the cops? Hello? Yeah. Whoop, 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 whoop. Where's your insurance? Right here, Mr. Officer. Anyway, sorry. Whoop, 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 whoop. Anyway, yeah, so what was I saying? What's the best type of bike? Do you need a litre bike to commute? No, you don't. However, you know, the more literage you have, or the more cubic centimeters you have, the more fuel you're going to consume, and the more fuel you're going to consume, the more money you're going to spend. The more money you're going to spend, you know, the more it's going to cost you to get to work. And then, you know, does your salary cover the idea of you racing around on a litre bike? If it does, then go for it. But let's not forget as well, it's salary dependent, it's, you know, image dependent, because let's not pretend that you own a motorcycle because you're eco-friendly. Let's not pretend that you own a motorcycle because, you know, you think that's the safest way to get around and it's more environmentally friendly. No, you're in a motorcycle because you want to look cool. All right, let's not forget that. All right, we all do. People buy cars, you know, because they want people to be like, oh, that's a nice car. Yeah, that is a fact of life. It's a sad fact of life, but it's true. You know, I don't prescribe to that idea because I ride around on a Grom, and Groms aren't very cool, are they? Well, they are. I also ride around on a Hornet, 750 Hornet, and that's pretty cool. But now I've ridden the SP 1000 Hornet, and I suddenly don't feel as cool as I did. Riding around, you know, commuting, you don't necessarily need a litre bike. You don't. But you do need some form of, you know, middle ground. You know, like, let's say a lot of your commute is, you know, hilly, and it's you know, there's a lot of motorway. You'd probably be better off with something that's a bit powerful. Like, I commute on my 750 to work. Believe it or not, this YouTube channel with 500 odd subscribers is not my full-time source of income, or any source of income really. It is a passion project. But let's say let's say I didn't have a job to commute to. What would I use on my daily ride? To be fair, I'd use this. I would use this. I enjoy riding on this a lot. It's just, look at it, it's gnarly, it's fun. Look at it, it's fun. You just flick it around the corner. Woo, here we go. But it's limited to what it can do. I mean, you know, if I, like, for instance, I want to take this to France or to even John O'Groats, it's going to take me ages to get there on this, mate. This thing's not powerful. You know, it's a scenic route rider, if you like. It's designed to take the scenic route, and that's what you should be doing. You should be thinking. So, you know, what size engine do you need to commute? You know, it's kind of relative, isn't it? You know, you don't really need a massive bike to commute. People go around on their 125 scooters and commute, you know, and for some reason people seem to think that, you know, and forget that as they go through their motorcycle journey, that, oh, I need this like Berman 450 to commute. You don't, mate. Or if I'm gonna go travelling, I need this adventure bike to go travelling. No, you don't, mate. Trust me, you don't. I have travelled, you know, quite a lot on my motorcycles, and none of the bikes I've ever had have been adventure bikes, and I've done a lot of adventuring. So, what can I say? I'm an adventurer without an adventure bike. That's pretty much it. So yeah, so, you know, what size bike do I need to commute? What size bike do I need? A big bike? No, you don't. But on the flip side, is it nice having a big bike? Yes, it is lovely having a big bike. Big bikes come with a lot of pluses. One of those pluses is they're fast. Another plus is they're fun. Another plus is they tend to get the job done at like a more leisurely, in a leisurely pace sort of thing, if you like. So, you know, you're riding a 125 around, and you're riding a smaller bike. There's a lot of gear changes. You're going uphill, and, you know, there's a lot of faffing about, and there's a lot of knowing what gear to be in on your bike. That changes when you're on a big bike, because you can just put it in fifth and travel everywhere in fifth or sixth, and you'll be fine. But smaller bikes make you a better rider. That's what I think. I could be wrong. Let me know what you guys think. What's the perfect size bike, engine wise, to commute on? You know, what's the best commuter you've ever had? You know, for me, I think my best commuter I ever had was actually my CB 125R. I mean, I went everywhere on that. I only owned it for like, I don't know, maybe 8 months, 9 months, but I put 10,000 miles on that thing. Now, obviously, I got my 750 Hornet. That's done very well commuting and travelling. You know, you don't need an adventure bike to travel far distances. You don't need a scooter to deliver pizzas. You don't need any of that. It's all stereotypes. So the question is, the question is, you know, what bike do I need? You know, that's up to you. That's up to you, my friend. And you know, this video has been very pointless for you, isn't it? Because you expected answers and you haven't gotten answers. But you've got another question, and that is, what sort of bike do you see yourself on the most? You know, and what do you want out of your bike? Do you want fun? Do you want speed? Do you want, you know, adrenaline? If you want some of those things, then, you know, a little Grom isn't one of them. But if you want fun, then a Grom could be one of them. So the answer to the question is, what bike, you know, what size engine do you need to commute? is a bit of an open-ended one, to be fair, guys. I've wasted your time with this video, much like my other ones. So if you feel like that, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. Keep this channel going. Let me know what you guys think. What's your perfect commuter? I think a scooter's the perfect commuter, and I've never owned one. So as we open it up into 4th gear, whoa, visor down, let's get ready to do some twisties. I've been the Hungry Hornet, you've been incredible. Until next time,